Our interviewer, Sapphire, recently interviewed our author of the week, Nathanael Munn, and she says, when asked why he chose horror out of all the genres out there, Munn responded with, "It just comes to me naturally, like it was somehow hard-coded in my brain." Now, Nathanael sent us a spooky horror tale for tonight, so all of you turn off your light, light up a candle, and get ready for a great tale.
The night I met the shadows. I suppose I should start at the very beginning. It was a night much like this one, stormy. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting right over there on that sofa sipping a cup of hot tea and scratching out a few words on my notebook. I was writing by candlelight. I do that often, as watching the shadows do their wicked, undulating dances on my walls and furniture help calm my nerves from the stresses of the day. It also sets the mood for me to grab words from my mind. I was in mid-thought looking for just the right word to pop out and grab me. Suddenly, the taper candles in that candelabrum, right over there, flickered for their lives, then blew out as if someone or something let out a hard puff of air and extinguished the light-giving flames. My eyes darted without direction around the room, looking for anything that may have caused the sudden, eerie, and still darkness. Then that all-too-familiar feeling welled in my body. You know the one that tightens your stomach to the size of a penny while heightening your senses. Then that's when you hear that voice in your head that starts to whisper, "You're not alone." With my vision sharper, clearer, my hearing more sensitive and acute, I continued to survey the room's seemingly black stillness. Suddenly, I saw something. Movement. I caught the disturbing motion from the right corner of my eyes. I whipped my head around like a demented carnival clown looking for the culprit. I saw nothing. I stared at the spot for what felt like hours, but was only a long minute. Then I heard a loud crash, like glass shattering on concrete. I flashed my eyes in the direction of the noise, watched and listened, yet all was quiet. Then the air around me became thick and cold, charged and breathed as if it were alive, testing my survival skills. My breath became fast and heavy, my palms sweated, and I knew something was close by. I could feel its close proximity stick to my sweaty skin. I only had to have the courage to find it. Then all my body hair stood tall at attention, with static charges that caused my arms and legs to tingle then go numb. My heart pounded hard and fast, and felt like it was bruising my ribs. My head was light and buzzing. Now, as if I were struck by a lightning bolt, I knew exactly where to look. I spun my head fast to the left. My eyes were wide. I saw it, right there, a shadow. It stopped in mid-stride, and I saw a black, misty humanoid shape clearly in the darkened room. It turned its head and looked at me. My mind wanted to run. I felt as though I might explode. Fear gripped me and had me paralyzed. I was now hypnotized like a cobra, swaying its head back and forth. Now I have to stop here and tell you all. I haven't felt that petrified since I was a child, hiding under my blankets at night. This was the kind of fear that made my stomach and heart feel like they were being squeezed to the point of popping like a balloon. I can remember breaking into cold sweats as a child every time I heard those footsteps. God, those footsteps pounding on the floor up and down the hallway. I don't know if anyone else in my family heard them. If they did, it was never discussed. Perhaps they were all terrified and huddled in a ball under their own blankets like me. I lived my childhood scared to death of the night. I can remember praying every night for the furnace or refrigerator to kick on. I don't know why, but the noise of those appliances comforted me. Now, one night, after hearing usual tromping up and down the hallway, I felt it come into my room. Somehow I could sense this, and my teeth began to chatter uncontrollably and body vibrated. Then I could smell the cold stink of its breath seeping through my blankets. I think if it had touched me, I would have exploded. God, that festering fear and anxiety rushes right back into me every time I dwell on those days. Now you have a better sense of my fear. The 4-foot-tall shadow being glared at me with its horrific eyes. I remember those frightening eyes the best. They were gold and sparkling, large and penetrating, while shining through the darkness like a feral animal on its nightly prowl. I don't know how long we looked at each other, with our eyes transfixed. I watched with intentness as it moved its dark blurry arm in the air and pointed its spectral hand or claw at me. I was puzzled. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Then it lunged at me. My body trembled. I tried to move, I tried to scream, but I couldn't. It was too late. The shadow entered my body through my chest. I remember falling off the couch and spilling my tea. After that, the shadow had control of my mind and body. Then it played and flickered thoughts like motion pictures in my mind that ran at speeds beyond my ability to comprehend. The images coming and going, flashing and flickering, and strobing made me dizzy, and I almost fainted from the lack of air and lightheadedness. It was at this point the dark intruder in my body got the picture slowed enough for my mind to interpret what it was receiving. Maybe they weren't visions at all, and I physically left the room against my will. I will never know, because it felt so real. The shadow whisked me to hell. I was standing, muscles tensed and stiff like a wooden puppet, a hollow shell just inside the gates of hell. The gates were made of gold, pearls, and ivory that glistened with sticky morning dew and beckoned for souls as if they were long-lost lovers. My head was spinning, my arms and legs were numb, and my stomach twisted and churned like melting, rotten taffy. I wanted to collapse into a small ball of mush and cry, but my body refused the commands. I was surrounded by air that was cool, vibrant, and glittered with eerie shades of turquoise and tan. I could smell a strong sense of sulfur hanging thick in the air, making it nearly impossible to breathe if that's what I was even doing. But judging by the smell, I knew that hell was actively moving with impunity in and out of holes or doorways punched through the fabric of space-time. The gassy odor made me more nauseous if that was even a possibility. Then I heard several loud cracks that rang deep in my ears and grabbed my attention without mercy, and forced my eyes to look up in the sky as if they were being tugged on with a leash. Floating above like a hot air balloon was a colossal Gothic cathedral made of emeralds and diamonds that shined its glory on me and drenched my face with hidden knowledge of music and art. Its tall towers scraped against the backdrop of fluorescent violet, which shimmered odd hues of orange flame and crimson blood. Then hundreds or maybe thousands of burning meteors filled the sky, moving from right to left. The whitish blazing balls of fire left long, milky trails in their wake as they passed, when suddenly they all burst into countless smaller orbs, glowing now red, orange, and blue as they fell like rocks from the sky. The brilliantly colored globes stopped just short of hitting the ground, then hopped, skipped, and bounced along, passing through my legs, around my arms and head, and I could hear them whistling and humming as they shot past me like playful children. Once all the smaller balls passed, they coalesced into a single pulsing object and exploded back into the sky like a rocket, then faded and disappeared. That's when I saw water beginning to emanate into 3 waterfalls from the massive hovering kingdom. The water cascaded down over crystal rocks, pooled, then dripped as if it were rain falling at the foot of a pastel blue hill. On top of the land protrusion were 3 thrones made of jasper and rubies. On the center throne sat the mighty Lucifer, the first, the biggest, the most beautiful and powerful angel ever created. His legs were blue flame. His chest had a bright sheen of highly polished silver. His hair was long, flowing, and sparkled with thin gold strands and dusted with silver flakes. His face glowed with such luminous intensity that it caused tears to roll freely from my eyes. His eyes were large, inset, and the deepest blue I had ever seen, and as I gazed upon them, I could have sworn I caught a glimpse of endless vast oceans of celestial wisdom and compassion pouring out and soaking everything in its glorious presence. As he sat there, like the Creator, tall and proud, he let his large, powerful ring stretch out, exposing countless eyes on the inside and stark white feathers with blue streaks on the backside. In fact, the longer I let my eyes rest upon him, the more I felt if I were to die at that exact moment, nothing would have made me happier and more at peace with myself or the world if I had left it behind. I felt oddly at ease, safe and secure within Lucifer's comforting presence. I wanted to walk right up to him, bow, and pledge my loyalty to him if it meant I could bask in his supercharged aura for all eternity. I had been so enraptured by Lucifer that it felt like a lifetime had passed before I noticed what was around him. Flanking Lucifer was Samiel and Azazel. Each wore golden crowns sparkled with diamonds and pearls. Kneeling before the thrones were 3 guardians of Lucifer's will and testament. They were bizarre hybrids of dragon, lion, and man. They each had 3 sets of wings that were covered with eyes both inside and out. They gave constant praise to Lucifer and to the throne of hell. At the bottom of the hill, getting pummeled by the falling rain from the waterfalls, were legions of demons, fallen angels, singing and dancing in worship, and seemed to become more jubilant with the wetter they got. I was finally able to move my eyes away from Lucifer as if I had just been released from a blinding love spell. I turned my head to the left and saw a lake of blue fire, and at its center of starved, licking flames were 3 islands. On the center island were 3 more thrones. These were made of crimson crystal. On the middle sat Jesus of Nazareth, with John the Baptist to his left and Enoch to his right. Behind them was a large wooden cross that held burning oil lamps at each corner of its T. At the feet of the thrones were humans, angels, demons, all kneeling and giving praise to Jesus and his good works, and to the throne of hell. Above them were clouds of liquid yellow lightning, and the loud rumbling, thunderous roars of thousands of chariots preparing for battle. On the far left were the fallen angels of the Nephilim warrior class, teaching prophets, saints, and demons the ways of angelic battle. It looked as though they were learning how to use the words and the power behind them to destroy and create. I could see their bodies vibrate as the words started in their guts, pushed up through their chests, and held captive in their throats, allowing the words to build strength and momentum. Then, like large horns, their mouths opened wide and bellowed out strings of angelic words. I heard a massive explosion. I don't know how I knew this, but they had just exploded a star in the heavens. The whole ordeal made me sick and uneasy, as all I could think about was what planet or people or animals might have just vanished from existence, like the unsuspecting star. Then I remembered. I was just a witness, not a participant. On the last island, I saw 3 more thrones. On those decadent daises sat Muhammad, Joseph Smith, and the Blessed Virgin Mary. Before them sat the healers of hell. They were somewhat human, except they had 3 arms and legs, and their feet and hands were backwards. They had 3 eyes and fingers on each malformed hand. They reminded me of circus contortionists in the middle of their act. They could lay their blessed hand on any injury, and by touch alone they could heal even the most monstrous of wounds. They kneeled and gave praise to the Virgin Mary, and to the throne of hell. At the opposite end of the island was a prison made of pewter and blue crystal, etched with angelic script that bound captured angels of the Lamb to individual cells. Between the prison and the thrones were the torture and death chambers of hell. The torturers, the bloodied butchers of hell, were true craftsmen of their trade. Their expertise on the use of swords, daggers, and fine medical slicing instruments was unmatched in any realm. I saw an oversized operation table with an angel of the Lamb securely fastened to it by chains that glowed in emerald green. The angel was withering in pain, and I heard it moaning and crying in severe agony as the butcher turned and reached for another blade that appeared to be the size of my arm. He maneuvered the razor-sharp tip with great skill and pierced the flesh of the angel and started carving out chunks of its meaty, damaged body. Then he cauterized the wounds to keep its ethereal blood from pouring and to keep it alive and breathing. I could see white pinkish bones peeking through on many parts of its angelic arms and legs. There were several iron clamps put in place to keep joints from falling off, as most of its tendons and muscles had been removed. I don't know how this angel was able to endure such torture, but it looked as if it had received thousands of lacerations. Huge golden platters were filled with removed chunks of flesh and fat and taken to the prisons and fed to the other celestial inmates. Once the mangled angel had given up its will to live and was trying to let out its final breath, a healer was summoned, and the whole process started again.